Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into a single source, the classic German folktale, Frau Holle.
Ooh, a good one.
It is. It's one of those stories that you might remember from childhood, but
Right.
when you revisit it as an adult, you start to uncover all these layers of meaning.
Like an onion?
Exactly. So we're going to peel back those layers, look at the symbolism, and figure out why Frau Holle continues to resonate with people even centuries after it was first told.
Well, that's good.
All right, so let's set the scene. The story starts with a widowed mother and her two daughters. One, of course, is the classic diligent and kind daughter, and the other is...
I bet I know where this is going. The lazy, unkind one.
Yep, you got it. They're total opposites, which in a folktale, that usually means we're about to see a lesson unfold about the consequences of their choices.
Yeah, folktales love a good contrast. It's like that helps highlight the message, right?
Definitely. And what makes it even more interesting is that the mother actually favors the lazy daughter, even though she's, not very nice to her stepsister.
Oh, so right away, we've got some family drama going on.
For sure. It makes you think, is this just a story about good versus evil? Or is it also a commentary on societal expectations, especially for women back in the day?
That's interesting because the diligent daughter, she's always stuck doing all the chores.
Exactly. Almost like a servant. Okay, so things kind of come to a head when the diligent daughter loses her spindle in the well.
The well. In folktales, that's never good.
Right. It's never just an accident. The well's a big symbol.
Yeah. It's like a portal, right?
Yeah.
Between the ordinary world and the magical realm.
Exactly, like a passage to the unknown. And by jumping into the well, the diligent daughter's taking a huge leap of faith, both literally and figuratively.
Ooh, I like that. Figuratively,
Hmm?
like she's facing her fears.
Right. So she ends up in this fantastical meadow and encounters a talking oven and an apple tree, both needing her help.
Wait, a talking oven and a talking apple tree.
Uh-huh. And it's interesting that the tasks she has to do for them are things like baking bread and shaking apples from a tree.
I see where you're going with this. These are very traditional women's tasks.
Totally. So on one level, you could say she's being tested on her ability to conform to fulfill societal expectations.
But there's also a whole magical element to it. It's not just doing chores. She's in a whole different realm.
Exactly. It's like she's being tested on something deeper, too. Something more about her character. Like, is she willing to help, even when things are strange and unfamiliar?
Kindness and compassion.
Yes. And her willingness to help, it shows that she's not just obedient. There's something genuinely good about her.
Which I bet leads to her being rewarded later on.
You know it. And that's where Frau Holle comes in.
Ah, mysterious Frau Holle.
She's a fascinating character. She's this powerful figure, but she's also kind of enigmatic, like you're not quite sure what she's all about.
So what's she like?
Well, she's a bit of a mix. On one hand, she's like a wise, nurturing figure who provides for the diligent daughter. But then on the other hand, she's got this stern, almost judge-like quality. Like she's the one who decides who deserves what.
Interesting. Kind of like a combination of a grandmother and a judge.
Yeah, exactly. And then you add in her connection to nature, especially with the imagery of winter and snow, and it just gets more interesting.
Oh, yeah. The snow. How does that fit in?
Well, there's this scene where the diligent daughter shakes out Frau Holle's feather bed, and feathers fly out like snowflakes. It's not just a chore. It's almost like a magical ritual that's bringing about winter on Earth.
Whoa. Okay, so we've got this contrast between the ordinary world and this magical realm, a diligent daughter who we think is going to get rewarded,
Yeah.
and this mysterious Frau Holle who seems connected to the forces of nature.
Yeah. So many layers to unpack here.
I can't wait to see where this goes.
Me too. And we'll pick it up right after this break. So the diligent daughter's working for Frau Holle, shaking out those feather beds, making it snow. That image really makes you think.
It does. It's like even these ordinary tasks, if you do them with care, with real effort, they can have this impact on the world.
Right. But after a while, the diligent daughter starts to feel, homesick. Even in this magical world, she misses home.
Yeah, I get that. It's like no matter how amazing things are, you still miss those familiar things, family,
Absolutely. And it shows that even though she's in this extraordinary situation, she's still human.
Yeah.
She still has those longings.
Totally. So what happens? Does Frau Holle let her go home?
She does. Frau Holle is actually very compassionate. But it's not just a simple goodbye.
What do you mean?
Well, as the diligent daughter passes through the gate, back to her world, she's showered with gold.
Whoa, a golden shower. That's awesome.
Right. It's like all that kindness, all that hard work, it's rewarded literally with gold.
Makes you wonder, what would happen if she hadn't helped the oven and the apple tree?
Yeah, which she's still gotten the gold.
Interesting. Is the story saying you should only be good if you get a reward? Or should you just, like, be good because it's the right thing to do?
Right. That's something to think about. Okay, but now we can't forget about the lazy daughter.
Oh, yeah. What's she up to?
Well, she sees her sister come back covered in gold, and of course she wants some of that.
Of course. Who wouldn't?
But you can already guess. Things aren't going to go so smoothly for her.
I have a feeling you're right.
She's not going to Frau Holle's out of the goodness of her heart, right?
Right.
She's driven by greed, by wanting that reward.
Exactly. It's all about her motives. And that's going to make a difference.
Big time. So she tries to copy her sister, goes through the motions.
But it's not going to work.
Nope. She encounters the talking oven and the apple tree, but instead of helping, she just laughs at them.
Wow. That's cold. So she's actively choosing to be unkind.
Yeah. And then when she gets to Frau Holle's, it's so obvious she's just faking it. Like she's trying to trick Frau Holle into giving her gold.
But Frau Holle's not dumb. She's wise, remember?
Exactly. She sees right through her. So guess what happens when it's time for the lazy daughter to go home?
Oh, I bet it's not gold.
Nope. Instead of gold, she's showered with boiling pitch.
Ew. Boiling pitch. That's like the opposite of gold.
Right. It's sticky, it's messy, and it symbolizes her inner ugliness, like it's sticking to her.
Man, that's a powerful image. It's like her bad deeds are catching up with her.
Totally. Remember the rooster that announced the diligent daughter as a golden maiden?
Yeah.
Well, now he calls the lazy daughter the pitch maiden. It's like her true nature is exposed for everyone to see.
Wow. So two sisters, two totally different outcomes. It really shows that the choices you make, they have consequences.
Absolutely. But it also raises a bunch of questions, right? Like, is Frau Holle a totally good figure? Or is she just enforcing these old-fashioned rules?
Right. Good point. And is it just about individual choices? Or is it also about, societal expectations, especially for women?
So much to think about.
It's a story that really makes you look at yourself, doesn't it? And at the world around you.
It's amazing how a story like Frau Holle, from so long ago, can still feel relevant today. Like those themes, good versus evil, hard work paying off, they don't really go out of style, do they?
No, I don't think so. I mean, those are things people have always thought about, right? Trying to figure out right and wrong, hoping that good things happen to good people. It's all very human.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, why are these folktales, these old stories, why do they stick around?
Well, I think, for one thing, they connect us to, like, the past, to how people used to think. It's like a window into another time.
That's true. And Frau Holle, it reminds me of other stories and ideas from different cultures, too, like Mother Nature or even karma, where if you do good things happen to you.
Yeah. It's like people want to believe that there's some kind of balance in the world, that things work out fairly.
Right. But Frau Holle doesn't make everything super clear-cut, does it? Like, what about Frau Holle herself? Is she a good guy? Or is she kind of scary, like making sure everyone follows the rules no matter what?
That's what I like about it. She's not just one thing. She's both kind and a little bit, intimidating. Kind of like life,
Definitely. And the sisters, too, they're not just perfect or totally bad. They make mistakes, they make good choices, they're complicated.
Yeah, it's like we all have the potential for both.
Yeah.
Good and bad. It's about what we decide to do.
So what do you think? How does all of this apply to us today? We don't have spinning wheels and talking ovens.
Well, maybe it's asking us to look at ourselves.
Yeah.
Am I being honest? Am I doing my best? Am I trying to be a good person, even when nobody's looking?
It's like that saying, character is what you do when nobody's watching.
Exactly. And in Frau Holle, it's almost like someone or something is always watching.
True. And even little things we do, they can have big effects. Like, remember how the diligent daughter made it snow just by shaking out that feather bed?
Right. It's like we all have the power to make a difference, even in small ways. So maybe Frau Holle, it's a story about paying attention to what we do, big or small, and remembering that it all matters.
Well said. So it seems like Frau Holle, even though it's an old folk tale, it's still full of surprises, things to think about.
Definitely. It makes you wonder, what choices are we making? What kind of world are we creating with those choices?
Great questions to think about. Well, that's all the time we have for our deep dive into Frau Holle. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we hope you'll join us again next time for another exploration of a fascinating topic.